Jesus Jones, one of the most influential alternative bands of the 1990s. And this Record Store Day, they have a special release. It's live in Chicago, 1990, recorded in September of 1990 at the Metro. Lead singer Mike Edwards here to chat all about it. Thank you so much for your time today.
It's a real pleasure. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. So we've got two LPs, four sides, three from the Chicago show, and one from Amsterdam. This is exciting, especially for your fans here in Chicagoland.
Yeah, it's quite exciting for us because I think back in the day, we didn't really have much idea that these recordings existed. Certainly, the Chicago one was kind of presented to us, the way I remember it, as a kind of fait accompli by the record company. Hey, look what we did whilst you were out there playing. So it's quite strange for us actually to have these things unearthed. The rest of the band will be very happy listening to it and saying, "Oh yeah, that track sounds really good." I never listen to old stuff at all, so I have no idea what it's like. But I'd probably hate it anyway. I'm kind of the band's fiercest critic.
Because when you think of that time period, end of September 1990, right here, right now, was just released 2 weeks prior. What do you remember about that time, especially with that song being released and then coming to the States to play one of these first shows?
Yeah, it was an incredibly exciting time actually, because yeah, 18 months earlier, we didn't have a record deal. We hadn't been doing this long, and we seemed to be going through kind of validation after validation. Getting a record deal, then it was just for a couple of singles, I think, and then they did pretty well. Just missed the UK top 40, which would have made them technically hits in the UK. But you could tell there was the momentum there. Then things started to move in America. Then we actually came to America to tour, hence this recording, and that was for a bunch of Brits who've been kind of scrabbling around playing crappy little pubs to their girlfriends 2 years earlier. That was really momentous. It was a really big thing. Just the fact that we were there and playing, let alone, I mean, we could see the Right Here Right Now was kind of gathering steam and people were liking it, but we didn't know what it would become. But we were in that kind of groundswell period when something was happening, and it was something that we kind of always hoped would happen. It was kind of dreams coming true, but you weren't sure if you could really believe in them yet.
Oh, exactly. Because I want to talk a little bit about the Chicago market just in general, because September 1990, you were here playing at the Metro. Spring 1991, you were at the Vic. Fall 1991, you were at the Aragon. So, every 6 months, you were making a stop here in Chicago. Was this one of your biggest markets and where your music was played the most during that time?
Yeah, I think that it was. Yeah. It's so commercially, yeah, I guess it was important, but kind of artistically for us, Chicago was always really extremely important for two reasons. One, because of Chicago House, which had such an influence on the kind of house music and techno that was a major driver of my writing, but also I've got to say really because of Steve Albini and Big Black, who it's funny, I listened to a bit of Liquid Eyes the other day, and the uh, the influence of Big Black on that album is to the point where it's almost plagiaristic. So to have these kind of two things going on from Chicago meant that Chicago was a real kind of hub for us. And obviously, well, for anyone who knows about the band and knows that our bass player has lived there for getting on for 30 years now, it became a very important city, more than any other city in the US to us over, ever since we first played there.
Well, I'm glad that our city made a big impact on the band.
Yeah, it certainly did. There's no denying that.
Now, as far as summer plans, we just got the announcement that Summerfest, you're playing up there. You're going to be touring the Midwest and the East Coast coming this summer.
Yeah, that's right. End of June, early July. So kind of just about far enough away that I can't be absolutely precise with dates yet. But yeah, certainly, yeah, we are coming to quite a lot of the Midwest. Obviously, Chicago wouldn't miss that. Summerfest, our second time, I believe. Last time was great. Really enjoyed that. I think in general, kind of doing festivals has got so much easier for us. And I do remember kind of when we first did them, again, back to this thing about we were used to playing these little pubs where you had to be careful you didn't knock someone out with the head of your guitar when you turn around, to suddenly these huge stages where kind of, the bass is all the way over there and the drums are somewhere in the distance behind you. It it was very hard to get used to, but we've kind of done it enough times now that it's kind of like falling off a log. It means that we can really enjoy them. We just go there, a little bit of stage nerves, of course, without which you wouldn't be any good. But then you just love it. You just really enjoy it. So from the moment you kind of get on, start playing, it's just great.
I heard that Doubt was recorded. I mean, obviously mixed and everything, that the process, but the whole thing was in about a week. Um, and taking that energy as far as every album past that, was that kind of your process as far as like, if we can crank it on a week, we know we've got something special, or some, a shorter period of time.
Yeah, I'd love to say it was kind of that merit driven, if it's so good, it'll be done quickly. But no, it was just that we had absolutely no time. We were just being scheduled to do things here, and here. Oh yeah, just getting to record a couple of songs there. I mean, right here, right now. Doubt probably was the bulk of it probably was done in about a week, but then there were remixes and one or two tracks were done two or three times over here. So all told, it was maybe a bit longer. But again, this is because our schedule was just so ridiculous then. It was kind of get out and tour, then any chance you had, do a bit of recording, then get out and tour. We were just really busy.
It's going back to Record Store Day, because there are some older fans who were like, I was at that show, I need to have this recording. There's some fans who, weren't of age to go see the show at that time. And there's just vinyl collectors. Talk a little about maybe some of the fans, maybe people who, when they see you out and maybe greet you at, backstage or at the stage door, or come to the shows, of like what the band means to them. And when they hear the live recordings, when they come to see you in concert, because obviously I'm sure they were teenagers or in their early 20s then, and now they have families and it's a different experience.
Yeah, we like to tie in all our tours with the babysitters these days. It's an important part of the night for our audience. Yeah, it's the audience kind of splits. You get people that we recognize by name, by face. Kind of, oh, it's you. How you doing? Nice to see you again. And they will have seen us. That'll be like time number 6, 7, or 8. Then you get the people who always wanted to see us but couldn't back in the day, and now they come and see us, and their reaction is always absolutely fascinating because they've heard the records. But I do think that we kind of again, maybe back to the quality control of things like that, we were always a much better live band, I think, than a recording band, to my ears at least. And so for those people, it's always a real experience, because it's like, holy hell, I had no idea the song had that, this song, that song, the other song had that much kind of power behind it. And then the other part of the audience is when those people bring their children for the first gig or whatever, first gig for us or first gig ever. So yeah, it's nice. On the one hand, you're meeting old friends. On the other hand, you're kind of seeing people who experience it for the first time, whichever generation they're from.
Oh, exactly. Because I remember even my parents introducing me to artists or putting music on in the house, and that's what you remember that, and you end up getting into those bands. So we're creating a new generation of Jesus Jones fans for you.
Yeah, I never really expected that we would do that. I always thought that what we were doing was very much kind of the moment. And I wanted that moment to last as long as possible. But I did stuff in the knowledge that it would be dated. So because it was very much of its time, I didn't necessarily see it would be intergenerational. It's nice that it is, but it's a bonus.
I do want to go back because I heard you, and I'm obviously paraphrasing as far as a quote that you had said, as far as the songs that you wrote, thought they would have a shelf life of 2 to 3 years, and then you'd move on to the next thing. What surprised you as far as maybe capturing that moment, but it just living on year after year after year and after generation?
What surprised me about it? I think maybe it's kind of which songs lived on and which didn't. There are songs right here, right now. It's for me, that was always the moment I wrote it, and that was actually going back to your point earlier on about how, if you get something done quickly, then it's good. That was the case with Right Here, Right Now. It pretty much wrote itself. It took marginally longer to write it than it did to listen to. And I always felt that was good, and I always felt it was kind of one of the better things that I've done that had a bit more longevity built into it, not by design, just because that's how it came out. But there were, you know, there were the songs I thought, yeah, this is great, and you know, even for me, you know, kind of 10 years later, you think, no, I can't get through half of that without listening, without having to stop listening to it. So yeah, you know, I didn't I didn't really plan much. I didn't really. I wanted it to be really good, and I wanted it to kind of break new ground. But I didn't. I wasn't trying to write a classic for all time at any point. That was too much planning.
I had heard Fran Healy from the band Travis make a mention as far as his songwriting process goes, and he was like, if you're taking several weeks and you're re-recording it, that it's like you got to toss it, get a new idea. They was listening to something from the Birds as far as all the songs that they wrote that were their classic hits, and just how quickly they were turning them out. And he was just like, at that point, you know, if you're taking too long on it, you're overthinking it. You got to move on or revisit it at a different time. So I've always been fascinated with that thought of like how quickly something gets written and how long a song stays, you know, relevant.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. I think that is the point. You know, I've been through the process of taking forever to make an album, but then there are two parts of the process: is writing the song and then there's recording it. And you know, as you were talking now, I was thinking about Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. I know that that was an incredible piece of work that took a long time to create, but it's the recording that took the time to create. I don't, you know, the song could have been done written in 3 minutes for all I know. But yeah, I agree with Fran's point that yeah, if you're having to really flog it and push it, there's probably a reason it's not happening. That said, I'd love to you know, record this and play it back to myself next time I'm writing, because the completist in you always thinks, well, there was a good idea in there. I am going to make it work, however long it takes, which is a stupid thing to do. But you know, we all do it, I guess.
And obviously, you know, we can't wait to hear songs from Liquidizer. We can't wait to hear songs from Doubt. You know, obviously, right here, right now, you can't leave the stage without playing that one or Real, Real, Real. But you also have new music out. You know, Where Are All the Dreams has been described as kind of the opposite of Right Here, Right Now. Talk a little bit about some of the newer music that the band is creating.
Yeah, well, I've been writing kind of very sporadically, and then kind of lumping it all together. But actually, these days now, I tend to, if I'm bored at home, I start writing, which is great, because there was a time, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, when it was the writing that would bore me, whereas now it's the other way around. It's how I cure the boredom. So yeah, but again, kind of referring back to something we were talking about earlier about the way that we were so busy in the old days. It's write a song as quickly as you can, record it as quickly as you can. Now, if I feel like writing something, I'll write it, and then you know we'll record it later. So it's done in its own time, which I think makes for much better recording, much more enjoyable recording. It also means that I have the luxury to kind of stand back and say, well, yeah, maybe that wasn't all that great. I should redo parts of it. Whereas before, it was like, the moment you've got it finished, that's it. You've got to move on. There is no time to go back and inspect it. But so yeah, now writing is a pleasure. However, I'm very aware that we're what they refer to as a legacy band, and I kind of think of going to see AC/DC with friends, and the friends are saying, well, listen, let's get there at about 10 past, quarter past 9, because when we do that, they'll have played the new song from the new album, and then they'll be straight into the stuff that we really want to hear. You know, I know we're in that situation too, so we're not going to do that thing where we walk on stage and say, "Hi, here's our new album in its entirety." You know, we're not that band. We know what pays the bills.
Wonderful. Well, Mike, thank you so much for your time today. Don't forget to check out Saturday, April 22nd is Record Store Day. They're releasing Jesus Jones. It's live at the Metro, September 1990. Then go ahead and get it. There's 1,200 copies all across the world. So you got to make sure I called a bunch of record stores. We don't know which ones have it, how many copies. So it's definitely a rare find that people are going to be looking for that one as well too. And they're coming to Summerfest, playing some Chicagoland dates later on this summer. Catch them in the Midwest as well as the East Coast. And can't wait to see some of the shows.
Yeah, we can't wait to be there. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for your time today.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.